Levi here, the Outdoor Cowboy, and welcome back to the Outdoor Cowboy YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to build a survival kit. We're going to be talking about the things that you do and don't need to survive in an emergency situation, and the things that should be in your emergency survival kit so you can build one up for yourself and be prepared for anything. So let's jump into it and saddle up for the ride. Alright, before we get talking about the things that we do and don't need for our survival kits, let's talk about what a survival kit really is. In my mind, your survival kit is for an emergency situation. So we're not talking about the stuff that you need to go out on a survival camping trip or the things that go in your backpack. I'm talking about something that you have in a car or at work or at your home or anything like that, where if you get stranded or need to survive for a little bit of time, you can have this kit, which is small and compact, and it will have the resources and the tools that you need to survive. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this video, is the things that we should have in our survival kits that are light and they're easy to have, but they'll be useful for us if we get stranded somewhere. I like to have something of this sort in my car, and when we're done building this today, this one is going to go into my car. And I think about it in case I'm ever stranded in a place where I don't have service, or I'm in the forest or pretty off-grid, where my car breaks down or runs out of gas or something like that, and if I need to survive there while I wait for help, or if I need to go find civilization, anything like that. And obviously these are for extreme situations that we don't really want to be in, but it's super important to be prepared because these situations do arise sometimes. And I would definitely rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So let's jump into talking about our survival kits. And I knew I really wanted to do this video because I think it's important, and I think it's something that everyone should know about and should have for emergency situations. But I was trying to think about how I should do it, and I could have just built one from scratch, which is a great option if that's what you're looking for. You can be picky about what goes in it and what you need, and you'll know really well what you have in it for when you need to use it. So that can be a super great option, but I thought I'd do something else. So I went to Walmart and bought this 10-in-1 survival kit. It's got a bunch of different things in it, and we'll go through these things. So I just bought this. It comes with this cool hard case, which I thought was a great addition. And I think this kit was $14 or $15, so really not bad for a great start to a survival kit. So we're gonna go through these items. We're gonna talk about if we need them and we'll keep them, or if we don't need them and we'll throw them out. And then once we go through all these items, we're gonna add a few more items to this kit and kind of talk about the things that I think should be in a survival kit. So by the end, we'll have a great survival kit that I'll have in my car that'll help me be ready for any situation. So let's get this guy opened up. There it is. Like I said, pretty cool little hard case. And then it just pops open to reveal all the stuff inside. So this thing says 10-in-1, but it counts the case as one of the things. So I guess we'll review that first, which I think this is pretty cool. I'm gonna use this for this survival kit that we're building today. And I'm pretty sure everything will fit in here by the end. So I think it's pretty cool. Definitely not necessary. It could be good to think about though as you're looking for something to store your survival kit, to have something that's waterproof. I don't think this thing's completely waterproof, but it's definitely water resistant and would be fine if you splashed it or anything like that. So, but that could be a great option just to keep the stuff inside dry, because being wet could also be an element of your survival situation that you need to be in. So could be something to think about. Cool little hard case to store our stuff. Now let's get into the contents of this. And we'll go through each of these and we'll kind of weigh the options of if we need this or not, if it's worth having in our survival kit or not. And kind of a rule that we're going to be using as we go through our survival kit is we're going to be weighing out size and weight versus how many uses it has. So basically, if something is really heavy and doesn't have very many uses, then it might not be worth it. But if something is small or relatively lightweight and it has a lot of uses, then it's definitely something that we're going to want in our survival case. So that's kind of the rule we're going to be talking about. Again, it's not a perfect rule. Like a fire starter pretty much only has one use, and they can take up a decent amount of room, but they're definitely important for your survival situation, so we definitely need one of those. But let's get started with a survival kit. All right, our first thing is an emergency blanket, which is awesome. There's tons of different versions of these, but I think they are super important. This is definitely something that we're gonna keep in our survival kit, so I'm super glad they had this in here. You can get these in different sizes and things, so that's important to look at, but these are great. First off, they're reflective, which can be good for sending safety signals, but they're also windproof, they're waterproof, and they reflect heat super well. So if you wrap up in one of these, your body heat's gonna be held in really well and it'll keep you warm. But also if you use one of these in addition to a fire, you can stay super warm pretty much in any situation. I've even seen people wrap up in these and then they'll build a little fire, and with a really small fire, they'll wrap the blanket around it with their body inside. Obviously not to breathe in the smoke, but it just radiates the heat super well. Or you could also do the same thing with warm coals. You could take some coals, put them on the ground, and kind of sit over them with the blanket over you, and it would keep you super warm. So emergency blanket, definitely something we're keeping. All right, on to our next item, which is this paracord bracelet, which I think is awesome. I love paracord bracelets in general for a lot of reasons, and we'll talk about those. But this one is really cool as well. It has a whistle, a compass, and a sharp edge on it that could be used to cut stuff. And it comes with this orange paracord, which is super bright, which can be great if you're trying to be noticed. The bright color can really help. But I've also had this green one as well. It's the exact same thing with the whistle, the compass, and the sharp edge on it. I've had this one for a long time, and I pretty much always have it in my backpack or in my car with me because it really is a lot of great things. Obviously, you guys know that I love paracord. It can be used for so many different things, so that's a huge plus. I'm not sure exactly how much is in here, but I'm sure that there's more than a couple feet of paracord in this bracelet, which is a great amount, and that can help you a ton in the outdoors. We'll just touch real quick on the other features. Obviously, having a compass is great. If you get stranded and have to go find civilization, a compass can be super helpful, either to find a landmark and head towards it, or just to know that you're heading in the same direction and not going in circles or anything like that, so you know you're making progress. So compass, awesome. A whistle can be really helpful if you're just trying to get noticed. If you're out in the forest and you think you hear people or a road, whistle can be a great option. If you blow super loud into it, someone might hear you and it might help you in getting rescued, so that's a great option as well. And then this little sharp edge is cool, just a little serrated blade. That could definitely help to cut some things, so great option. Love these. We're definitely keeping this in our survival kit. All right, the next thing in our survival kit is a Commando wire saw. This one's all coiled up for saving space, but these can be super awesome. If you don't know what these are, look them up. They're really cool. You have these two rings, which you grab the rings on either side, and then the wire itself is almost like small barbed wire, and it can be used as a saw. You saw back and forth, and it can cut stuff. These things are awesome. I have one of these in my camping and survival backpack at all times, just in case. I usually carry around the other saw that you guys have seen me use, but this is a great backup and can definitely cut stuff if you need to clear stuff or if you need firewood, anything like that. These can be awesome, so definitely keeping this. All right, so we've kept everything so far, so let's get to something that we're not keeping. The next item in our survival kit is this, which they say is a water bottle holder, which I think this thing goes around a disposable water bottle, and then maybe you can hook it onto your belt or something. But we're not gonna be keeping this in our survival kit. Obviously these can be handy if you're hiking or something like that, but I think this is just some wasted space in our survival kit, so we're throwing that thing out. All right, next item in here is a whistle, which this one is really loud, especially a lot louder than our paracord one, so I'm kind of going back and forth on if we'll keep it or not. I think we'll keep it just because I think we'll have extra space, but kind of redundant, which you usually don't want in a survival kit, especially if you don't need a backup. A whistle is probably not going to fail or break, so it's not really important that you need a backup, but having an even louder whistle will help you be able to make a louder noise and to go further. So I think we'll have the space. I think we'll just keep it so we don't have to take off our paracord bracelet to use a whistle. We'll have another one, and it doesn't take up a lot of space and weight, but you could definitely throw this out and that would totally be good because we already have one. So all right, the next item in our survival kit is a magnesium fire starter. 100% love these things. We're definitely keeping this. Super reliable way of starting a fire. They're small, don't take up a ton of space, so definitely keeping this. You guys see me use my ferro rod all the time, which is a very similar fire starter to this, so we love this. Definitely gonna keep it. So these are super helpful. They work when it's cold, they work when it's wet, so great option. Definitely keeping this. All right, our next thing is this, I guess, survival card that has a bunch of different things on it. They've got a little bit of paracord, which is good. They've got a bottle opener. They've got a ruler that goes to 1 inch, definitely helpful. They've got a sharp edge. They've got, I guess, kind of wrench holes right there that could fit different things, and a screwdriver tip. These things are definitely really cool. I have one in my wallet a lot, but just thinking about a survival situation, most of the stuff on here is not really important. We already have some paracord, and if we want more, we'll just grab some more and not have it in this set. I think the little wrenches are probably not very useful. We're going to talk about a sharp edge here in a little bit, and we probably don't need to measure something that's under 1 inch while we're out. So we're going to throw this out, but I might stick it in my wallet because these things are really cool to have. And I've definitely used them, not necessarily in a survival situation, but out just when I've been doing projects and stuff. These things can be handy. So we're going to do a nice toss out because we're still going to use this, but it's not going in our survival kit. All right, we're down to the last two things in our survival kit. The next one is a knife. Super important. We've talked about that a knife is one of the most important tools you can have. This one's great. It's got a sharp edge and a serrated blade, so it kind of acts as a little saw. So that can be really handy. This is obviously a super cheap knife, so I might replace it with a better knife that I know won't break, or a fixed blade, because we've talked about how important a fixed blade knife is. But this one has a little window breaker on the end, and then as well as a little skinning hook, which could come in handy. So for being a cheap knife and for coming in this $15 kit, we'll just keep it in there. I usually have a nice knife on me anyways, but this will be a nice backup, and it's got a few extra little gadgets, so we'll keep this in our survival kit. All right, the last thing in our survival kit is a carabiner, which carabiners are super cool. I really like them. This is even a nice locking one that has the screw thing that goes up and locks, but I think we're probably gonna toss this out. There's not a ton of uses for carabiners. I pretty much have a couple on my survival backpack at all times, and I don't know if I've ever actually used one, so I think we'll just throw them out. This one's obviously not rated for climbing, and it's super light, so it feels pretty flimsy. It definitely couldn't be like load or weight bearing very heavy, so I think we'll probably toss it out. I think it's just wasted space. And I think pretty much everything that you can do with a carabiner, you can do with some paracord, so we'll just keep our paracord, toss the carabiner out just to save some space, and that's everything that comes in our survival kit. So let's get everything that we're keeping thrown back in here, and then we'll start adding some stuff that they didn't include in this, and we'll talk about why I think those things are important and why you should have them in your survival kit. And then here in a little bit, by the end, we're gonna have our survival kit all done. We'll get her all closed up, tossed in the car, and then we'll be ready for a situation that hopefully we never have to use, but we'll be prepared if we need to. All right, we got everything thrown back in, so we'll set this aside. Got some room cleared up, which is nice. And let's talk about a few more things that we're gonna add to the survival kit to make sure that it's ready for us to survive. All right, the first thing we'll touch on is with our fire starter, which we have a magnesium fire starter in there. It might be nice just to have a backup. And so I was thinking we'll throw some matches in there. These things obviously weigh like almost nothing and they're super small. So maybe if we just throw 4 or 5 in there, that could just be a good backup for our magnesium fire starter. And for things like fire starters, it's good to have a backup in case one doesn't work. You could also have a lighter in there. Lighters obviously make a nice good flame, which can be helpful for starting fires, but it can be bad if it runs out of fuel. So having stuff like a magnesium fire starter, which lasts for a super long time, can be helpful. So I think we're gonna throw about 4 or 5 matches into our survival kit, and this will just help us have a backup for starting a fire, which is super important if we're surviving. And going along with starting our fire, I'm actually gonna throw 1 or 2 of our homemade fire starters in my survival kit. Starting a fire can be one of the most important things for survival. If it's gonna get cold at night, or if it's cold during the day, or if it's winter, anything like that, starting a fire can be huge for keeping you warm, keeping you dry. And you pretty much just have to get a fire started once, and you can keep it going by just continuing to add wood and sticks. So if you're out surviving, that's probably what you'll need to do. So we're just gonna throw some of these in there. Obviously they're super light, just cotton balls and some Vaseline. And they don't take up a lot of space, but they'll make it so that we can for sure get a fire started when we need to, which can be really important. So we'll toss some of these in there to make sure we get our fire started. And it can definitely help us if it's winter, or if it's raining, or if it's snowing. It can be harder to get wood started if it's cold or if it's wet. So having a fire starter like this can help us to dry out some wood and get a fire started, whereas we may not have been able to with just our magnesium fire starter. So these will be important. I pretty much take these on all my survival campouts, so I'm gonna throw some into our survival kit. All right, just a couple more things, but definitely important. Our next one is gonna be water purifying tablets. Obviously, boiling water is a great way to purify your water, but that requires you to have a dish that can have water in it and can take fire, which can be pretty tough. But oftentimes I have a water bottle in my car, and not necessarily one that can take fire. So if I can find water in a stream or collect rainwater or a lake or anything like that, I'll just throw a couple of these tablets in and have purified water. So these things are great. They're super tiny and they weigh nothing. This little bottle cost me 10 bucks and it has 50 of them in there, and 2 tablets is 1 liter of water, which is quite a bit. So this bottle right here can do 50 liters, which is about 6.5 gallons of water, which is plenty of water. I've never gone through that much in multiple day camping trips. So we'll actually just take a couple of these, throw them in a Ziploc bag, and then we'll toss them into our survival kit. And that'll help us just be able to purify water when we're out, because boiling might be pretty hard. So being able to have a couple of these, just collect some water, will make it so we don't get sick while we're out, don't get any bacteria or anything like that. And these things are super easy, super light, take up almost no space, and having water is vital when we're out. So we'll throw some water purification tablets in there. All right, our next thing is gonna be a flashlight, which tons of different options for flashlights. This is my big boy that I take a lot, but there's also even small ones like this. or ones in the middle. They all work great. And I usually have one in my car and one in my backpack. So for me, having one in my survival kit's not super important. So I'm actually gonna throw just this little guy in there, but it's still 5 LEDs and it's pretty bright. And if it's dark and we don't have a fire, this can be great for giving us some light. So just for space, we're gonna throw this little guy in there, but this thing won't last super long. So it's definitely important to have either backup batteries or just a bigger flashlight that'll work longer. Especially if you're going out survival camping, having a good flashlight is super important just to make sure you can see. If you're building your shelter into the night, you need a flashlight. Or if you're just searching for stuff or hiking, making sure you have a flashlight. So we're gonna throw this little flashlight in our survival kit. This will be enough for a survival situation, but when we're going survival camping, we're taking the big boy. All right, we have made it to sort of our last two items, some duct tape. Duct tape is just awesome. I've used so many rolls of duct tape in my life, fixing things, just fastening things, sticking things together, and it always just works really well. So you can have it. And if you're wondering what you can use it for, you have to definitely get creative. We're probably not gonna be using duct tape for the things that we would normally use it for, but duct tape can work great as a bandage for if you get a cut or something like that. This can be your temporary band-aid while you're either hiking to civilization or you're waiting to be rescued. So that can be really important. It can help fix shelters, it can help fix gear, it can help fix clothes. Anything like that that can be important to keep you dry or keep you warm. So our next item is duct tape, which is awesome. I just folded a piece on itself a couple times, and this thing weighs nothing, takes up no room, and it also helps us with our next item. So if we peel up just the first flap of our duct tape, you can see that in our duct tape we wound up a couple feet of fishing wire as well as a fishing hook. So this is a trick that I like to do, and it can be used for even more things if you find things that are flat. We could even put our water purification tablets in our duct tape because they're so small. Or if we didn't want to carry a knife, we could even throw a razor blade in the duct tape and wrap it up as well, something like this to be our sharp edge. So it's just a super good packing trick that just keeps it really flat and put together, but also makes it so it's not just flying around in your survival kit, because I don't really want to reach into my survival kit and get stabbed by a fishing hook. So that could be bad, so we like to keep it in here. But just having a fishing wire and some hook can be really important. If you're near any body of water like a lake or a pond, or running water like a stream or a river, you can be able to catch some food. So again, super small, takes up almost no room. But if we're out surviving, we find a body of water and we're pretty hungry, this can be a great option for us. We can find a worm or something to put on the end and fasten a stick to be our fishing pole and just use this to catch some food. So small things like this to be able to get food are really important, because we might not have food when we get into these survival situations. So we're gonna throw these two things in our survival kit, and that'll end us off with the things we're gonna add into our survival kit. So just like that, we have our modified survival kit. We started with that kit from Walmart, and we took a couple things out, but we kept some things. They had some great things in there, so definitely wasn't a waste of money for $15. I have this cool little hard case now that our survival kit will be in, and then we added a couple things. We added things to keep us warm, to give us light, to make sure we can get some food, and to help us just be prepared for any situation. I think the only thing I would still add to this would just be some more paracord, just to help us survive, help us make shelters. Maybe we can even make traps for animals or anything like that. So I'm gonna cut off a little piece of this paracord, which is a mess right now, and shove it in here. And I think that will finish our survival kit off. So just like that, our survival kit is done. I'm super happy with it. We have a lot of awesome things in there that I feel comfortable would help us to be able to survive if we get into a situation where we need to. Before we end the video though, I want to talk about two things. The first thing is that I'm sure there are so many other things that we could have added into a survival kit. And if I think of other things in the future that I want to add, then I'll do that. I'll just add it to my kit. And that's the great thing about them, that it can be a work in progress. So we can continue to build on it and add on it. If we see things in the future that we want to add to it, then we'll do that. Or if there's just things that you'd prefer to have in yours, take the things that I've done and that we've talked about today and add whatever you want or make some changes so that it fits you and your situation better. But the point of it is to help you survive, so don't take my word for it. Figure out what works best for you, because these kits can also be any size. Obviously the one I made is pretty compact and will fit into a car and not really take up any room, which is nice. And for some people that might be best. Maybe they don't have a lot of room or a lot of money to spend on a survival kit. So something small like this is great. But your survival kit could be this, it could be even smaller if you took out a few things, Or it could be even bigger. You could have a bag or a backpack or a bigger case of your survival kit, and then you can start adding more things, right? Maybe you add a tarp in there, or you add a water purifier so you don't have to use the purifier tablets, or a small cup or bowl made out of metal so you can have a dish for stuff, or add some non-perishable food so that you have calories for if you get stranded. The options are really endless. So I just wanted to make this video making this great little case, which I'm really happy with. But as you make your survival kits, think about the space that you have and what you need for a survival situation, and make the survival kit best for you, because you're the one that's going to be using it, and I want you to be able to survive. But I hope that this video is helpful and kind of giving you a roadmap of where to start when you make your survival kit, things that you need, things that you probably don't, and just kind of a mindset, a way to think of imagining yourself in these situations and what you'd need and what you'd be using. And if there's things that take up space but you probably wouldn't need, throw them out and make room for better things. So that's kind of the first thing, is there are so many options. Comment down below what you'd want in your survival kit, and maybe I forgot some things and I'll add them to mine, or you can give other people in the comments ideas of what to add to their survival kits, because there really are so many options of things you can have. Now on to the second thing, which we'll just touch on real quick, is just making sure that you know how to use the things that are in here. If you put a commando saw in there and you've never used one before, when it gets to the point where you need one, it can be tricky and you might not be able to use it. And then it's kind of just wasted weight and space. Or the magnesium fire starter. If you've never used one of those and don't know how to use one, then when you go to start a fire, which is super important when you're out surviving, you might not be able to. So make sure that you're not only familiar with the things in your survival kit, but that you're familiar with how they work and how to use them, so that you can be an expert with your survival kit and that it can be useful for you. That was also part of the reason I wanted to go through this kit, is I could have just bought the Walmart kit and thrown it in my car, which would have been a great option, right? It had some awesome things in it, and even the things that we threw out could definitely still have a use. But if I hadn't really gone through this, I wouldn't have really known what was on the kit other than reading the back of the thing. I would have just known that it's a 10-in-1 survival kit, which doesn't really mean a lot. So I wanted to go through this so that I'm familiar with what's in here, and then obviously add a few more things so that it's kind of up to par of what I like. And now we've got like a 12 or 13-in-1 survival kit that'll work for us and that I'm super happy with. So again, I hope this video is helpful. I hope that you learned some stuff, and I hope that this gave you a good roadmap for creating your own survival kit. Like I said, comment down below things that you're going to add to your survival kit, or questions that you have about maybe if you need to bring something, and either I or other people in the comments can answer and kind of give their input, because everyone with survival background has used different things and had experience with different things, and that can all be helpful with making your survival kit. Again, hopefully we never have to use these things, but it's better to have them and not need them than need them and not have them. Again, thanks for watching. I really enjoyed making this, and we'll definitely do more with this in the future. Maybe we'll make a bigger one with more options, or a smaller one, or we'll go try to survive with just this kit and the clothes on our back. That could be a fun video as well. So make sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and the notifications bell so you're notified every time I post. Remember, new videos every Saturday morning, always family friendly and wholesome, and just me doing what I love of exploring the outdoors. And I'll see you in the next video, and as always, saddle up for the ride. If you liked this video, make sure to check out the Outdoor Cowboy YouTube channel. We've got new videos every week, survival adventures, camping projects, tool restorations, and a whole bunch more. Hit that like button, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.